Good evening, everyone, and welcome out to Speed Racing Network, where we proudly present the Gettin' Lucky 195 here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I am here with Brandon Domain. Brandon, how's it going tonight?
It is going fantastic, and after the race that we saw Wednesday with the Truck Series and how tight everything was, Vegas turning into that mini super speedway, feels like we're going to get a lot similar racing tonight here on Sunday with our Cup guys. Just watching practice, it looks almost identical. It's got me amped up for this race, so I'm more than excited as we kick off the playoffs. How are you doing tonight?
Man, I am doing fantastic. This is one of those races that here in the Cup Series, because we have so much money on the line, it is so interesting to see as we get into this week one who is going to come forward, who is going to shine here under the lights at Las Vegas.
And it is going to be an absolute crapshoot, I think. Just the way that, watching practice right now, we got everybody that's running in just we call it a pit party. Everybody kind of running together, simulating the start of a race, and we're seeing wild passes, seeing big runs down the straightaways, 3-4 lines available through the turns. These Cup cars just built for Las Vegas here with how iRacing has these cars set up. You can pick a name out of a hat to win tonight, and you might have a good shot.
And we've got so much on the line tonight that makes it even more fun because we've got the playoff lucky dog on the line here tonight. So whichever non-playoff driver from the Cup Series, we do have some independents coming in from other series, but whichever non-playoff driver from the Cup Series finishes before anybody else. So the first finisher across the line that's not in the playoffs right now, guess what? They're in.
And we saw, already on Thursday with James Shanewolf, it took a win to get that playoff lucky dog, parking it in victory lane, and finds himself all of a sudden inside the top 5 in the playoffs, let alone the top 10 that's going to advance to the next round. So that playoff lucky dog does not mean you're at a huge disadvantage. You can come in here, win tonight, and all of a sudden you're up there with some of the title favorites by the end of the season.
Yeah, it is a big, big deal. That, the team playoffs start tonight, the regular playoffs start tonight. We have got a ton to go through here tonight, Brandon. So let's just start off and just tell everybody about what this league is all about.
Absolutely. As we start the playoffs, this is week number 14 of 20 weeks on the season. The Cup Series, as well as the Xfinity and the trucks here at SRN, running on fixed setups, so there's only a couple of minor things that are able to be adjusted by the drivers for their comfort levels. No fast repairs in the Cup Series, as well as the Xfinity Series on Thursday nights. And here in the Cup Series, $15 a week for the entry fee, but that does lead to some pretty good-sized payouts, both weekly and season, with our $1,000 first place prize, as well as the team title that's going to lead to some money as well. Yeah,
all sorts of money on the line as we get into the playoffs here tonight, especially those race payouts. $45 for first place, $30 for second, $15 for third, fourth, and fifth, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up over the course of an entire season.
Oh, for sure. And you look at some of the guys that have won, 2, 3, 4, 5 races, that $45, all of a sudden you're paying for the entire season at this point without having to worry about more than that first entry fee from week 1 at Daytona. And even if you're sitting there getting top 5s consistently, it's just one less thing that you don't have to worry about moving forward, just putting that money aside for the next race.
Well, everybody likes this little bit of money, but everybody loves the season-long money, and we are talking season payouts of $1,000 for first place, $600 for second, and then $350 for third, $200 for fourth, and then $125 for fifth, and then brand new this season, 6th through 8th are getting paid out also.
Yeah, we added the playoff lucky dog to give somebody a shot that wasn't inside the top 15 naturally through the points, and then we're adding 3 more payout spots for the top 3 drivers that are just missed that championship 5 by the time we get to Atlanta in week 20 early on in December. Top 3 out of that group of 5 that came up just short will win some money as well. Not enough to be like, the entire season entry fee or anything like that, but you cannot complain about pocketing some extra cash there.
No, never. And there's just, like I said, so much cash out there, especially if you make it all the way to that final week. So that's what we really need people to look at is, man, we got all sorts of stuff going on. But, one of the things that happened this past Thursday in the Xfinity Series, Rhett Tucker, one of the best drivers we have in the Xfinity Series, got into an early wreck, came in, got repairs. He was 6 laps down and still stuck with it and came back to gain 8 more points than if he would have just quit right there. So it's all about just staying on the track.
Yeah, and that major accident that unfortunately for myself I was caught up in kind of wiped out a whole lot of people. Felt a lot like the race today at Texas early on where you saw that big wreck there and just wiping out so many people. But if you stay with it, you try to chip away every single point. We've talked about it for the past few weeks. Every single point matters from week one. It just feels like it matters more this time of year. Now in the playoffs, it definitely matters more because the opportunities are fewer and farther between.
You know, speaking of this time of year, I know we've talked about some Oktoberfest beers in the Beer of the Week before, but now we're starting to get into the seasonal beer, the Christmas type beers, and that's what we got this week on the Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week. This week's Beer of the Week comes out of Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. It's a seasonal IPA called Celebration. This will be the 20th year that Celebration IPA has been on the shelves. When a picture of Celebration beer cans ready to be filled was posted recently, fans everywhere professed their love for this seasonal beer. One thing people love about Celebration IPA is that it's completely steadfast in simply staying as is. While many other beers change slightly from time to time, Celebration IPA has remained the same recipe this whole time. It's that mixture of quality and reliability that keeps fans coming back for more year after year. So don't hesitate. Pick up a 6, 12, or 24 pack of Sierra Nevada Celebration IPA when they hit the shelves later this month. The Beer of the Week is brought to you by BeerStreetJournal.com, the leading online publication for craft beer reviews. Go to BeerStreetJournal.com to find your next great beer. And as always, you must be 21 to enjoy, and please drink responsibly. That's right, we are into the Christmas beers, Brandon.
Oh man, it is time to leave the pumpkins and get all into that cinnamon and some of the spiced apple flavors and all that stuff. Sierra Nevada, one of the better breweries out there. They always come out with some good stuff. So this one, obviously a little bit of excitement behind this one as we get towards Christmas time. And always, we got to thank Beer Street Journal for throwing out some more information about more and more of these beers and just letting us know what's out there, because there's a whole lot of beer out there to try.
There is. So definitely go to BeerStreetJournal.com and find your next great beer. But Brandon, it is time. It is time for the team championship. It is time for that bracket out there, and it's kind of got that March Madness feel, but it is October right now. But you can see here Next Level Motorsports and Tank Racing with the buys.
Yeah, and you talk about March Madness. This really feels like the NFL playoff up until last season when they added an extra team. But we got 6 teams here in the Cup side. Top 2 seeds, as you see it there with Next Level Motorsports as the 1 seed and Tank Racing on the bottom right as the 2 seed. They get that bye in the opening round, so one less thing to worry about, even though they have plenty to race for, is practically all their drivers are included inside the top 15 playoff racing for right now. But the big matchups that we're going to look at on the team side, on the right side, we have the 3 versus 6 matchup of Murray Reedy Motorsports against Stryker Motorsports, and then on the bottom left, the 4-5 with Revved Racing against R&D.
That's right, and we're going to go through each one of these teams really quickly here, and let's start off with Next Level Motorsports and Tank Racing. Again, both of them have buys because they did so fantastic throughout the season, but Next Level Motorsports has been on another level.
They have just been absolutely incredible, and it's had that Hendrick feel with the dominance that we've seen this season, and there you see it. I mean, that's 9 wins for their 5 drivers. Timothy Latham becoming the next level driver to get the win last week to close out the regular season in victory lane, but just unbelievable. They have the top 3 in the point standings as we get started as well.
They do. Now, Tank Racing, no schlubs here either. They have, if Next Level wasn't in this league, then Tank Racing would be running away with this thing.
Oh, they have been ultra impressive, and you look at some of the names that have just really grabbed your attention. You got Joshua Balliet, who is actually going to enter this 15th in points. Just didn't pick up many bonus points over the season, but he's been ultra impressive. Reece Shafer has been fantastic all season, as has Seth Berger. You see a 77 car up there. They're all in the playoffs. Emerson Arden in the 57 and Max Service in the 81, both with a legitimate shot tonight to make it in as a lucky dog.
Yeah, Max Service, the fastest of the non-playoff drivers out there on the track during practice right now, so be on the lookout for him. But let's check out this matchup. It's the 3-6 matchup, Murray Reedy Motorsports and Stryker Motorsports. Murray Reedy has last season's champion Scott Healy, and he has actually been really, really good in the past few weeks, coming on strong.
Oh, he's really built up some momentum and reminding people a lot of what he did last season, where it was really the second half of the season, especially the playoffs, where he got real hot and it led to winning the title at Texas last season. Austin Reedy in the 1, Kyle Benson in the 10 are also going to be playoff drivers out here, are very good contenders to at least make it in. We have Craig Lautenslager in the 13 and John Honeycutt in the 50.
Yeah, Austin Reedy was on the outside looking in on the regular playoffs, and that kind of has to make him the favorite coming into this race. But just like in MLB on their wild card and everything, this is a one-race deal, so anybody could win this thing. But over on the Stryker Motorsports side, they only have one driver even on the track right now, and that's Raul Meza.
And that's kind of been the story for the team all season. It's just been having difficulty getting everybody together on the track. I mean, we've seen Raul Meza be very good, especially early on in the season, been a little bit rough lately. Bo Brady has a lot of speed. Kyle Johnson's been very good when he's out there. Joe Ruggles Jr. has improved a lot this season. But just getting all four of them out on the track has been tough. And with one out there tonight, that is a huge head start for their opponents.
Absolutely. And this other matchup, this 4 and 5 matchup, this is going to be a great matchup, I think. Rev Racing versus R&D Motorsports. Rev Racing only has 3 drivers, but 3 drivers is all they may need.
And it was super close in how they were seeded against each other. They knew a couple weeks ago, really, that they were going to be facing each other. But Rev Racing, Byron McDonald in the 9, Scott Kalal in the 23, and Dalton Tucker in the 73. And you're looking at a couple of guys that are going to be serious contenders to at least make it to the championship 5, I think, in Kalal and Tucker. Byron McDonald, one of the favorites to get that lucky dog tonight. Yeah,
really interesting situation with Byron McDonald because, again, you have to race at least 6 races in order to get into the eligibility for playoff lucky dog. Byron's been here the entire season. He's just had bad finishes literally every single week. If he pulls off one good finish tonight, he could be in contention for $1,000.
That would be absolutely huge for him, but he's also got to think about that team side of it with this close 4-5 matchup. And on the other side of that matchup, Revd is going to be going up against R&D Motorsports, and these two teams have been so level with each other that this is just going to be a fantastic matchup as we take a look at R&D.
Yeah, out there in the chat already, Corey Saucier saying, don't sleep on the 78 tonight. And the 78 is kind of the de facto leader here. He is the leader of R&D Motorsports, but he is also the only one in the playoffs right now. But Jordan Sailors and Joshua Siegfried both on the track.
Yeah, they're both out there, so we're going to see full lineups for each of these teams. So it's going to be very level. They each carry 3 drivers, which is going to put them, whoever wins this series, at a disadvantage moving forward. But in this first round, it's going to lead to a great show. And David Duke has a good run in practice thus far. He's going to be contending for the playoffs and making that cut to the next 10. So I think that R&D, Corey is absolutely right. Do not sleep on them tonight.
And finally, we do have a lot of independent drivers out here, but the 2 main ones to talk about here, Dean Brummett and Michael Politis, both of them in the playoffs as independent drivers. The rest of these drivers have moved in from other series, so they are not eligible for the playoff lucky dog, but they are out there to try to race and win a little bit of money here tonight.
And one to keep an eye on, really 2 to keep an eye on, Seth Reed in the 21 and Devin Zimmerman in the 33. They were both very fast in practice, had good runs and good speed at Vegas in the Xfinity side of things. I would not count them out tonight, just to show up here in this race and make a name for themselves moving up a series.
Yeah, they were 2 of the top cars in the Xfinity series until they both got taken out by a wreck, and so they are here for redemption for that. But let's take a look at the 15 drivers that are racing for the playoffs here tonight.
Absolutely, and we see them all sorted out by their bonus points that they acquired for the season. This is only going to apply in the first round, so after this it's going to clear out to a full reset for the 10 that advance. But James Holzer, Landon Lacy, they have that big head start over most of the rest of the field. Timothy Latham kind of hanging in there, not too far off. But Holzer and Lacy have really been the story this season.
Yeah, the race here tonight is going to clear up a lot of stuff. A 3-race stint is what we're looking at for the first round of the playoffs before we cut to the top 10. And really, if you get one of those races wrong, you're in a lot of trouble. And especially if it's that first race, you're having to dig out of a hole. So tonight is going to clear up a lot of stuff. But let's go through really quickly and talk about each one of these drivers. And we'll start off with James Holzer. 5 wins this season, average start of 5th place, average finish of 3rd place. When you are on the podium as an average, that makes you the absolute best in the league by far, no questions asked. And let's see if he can keep it going here tonight.
Yeah, that is a incredible percentage that he's had, and somebody that's kept up with him, actually had a late start to the season because he started in the Xfinity side, is Landon Lacy, entering as the number 2 seed, also at a Next Level Motorsports, 3 wins on the season, and he is not far off that average finish of 4th place. He has been neck and neck with James Holzer this entire time.
Yeah, next up we've got their teammate, Timothy Latham. Now, Latham, if you remember last season, he started off the year with 2 wins in a row. He is a very, very streaky driver, and he won last week. So kind of be on the lookout for him. Average start of 11th place, average finish of 9th place. Again, if you're in the top 10 as a finishing position, that is going to make you really, really strong.
Keep in mind, it was similar tracks to Vegas that he won at last season, so that might set him up well. Seth Berger has been, I would say, the most improved driver going back from last season, and it showed as he's going to be starting this playoff in 4th. Average finish in 9th place. Does have a runner-up finish here on the season, and you see that 11 starting bonus points. He spent a lot of time picking up these laps led over the first 13 races of the season. It's led to a solid starting position for him. I would not count him out to be in that championship 5.
Yeah, Seth, a very smart driver to go after those bonus points every chance he got. But next up, we have last season's champion, Scott Healy, who nobody thought was really a contender for that championship until all of a sudden he shows up in the last race and just takes everybody by storm.
No, he did a fantastic job in that race, and really the last, I would say, 3/4 of the race, it was all Scott Healy that led to victory lane, and more importantly, the championship in our Season 1 in 2021 of the SRN Cup Series. So Scott Healy starting 5th. Starting 6th is Kyle Benson, another one of the newcomers to SRN, but man, has he been good. You see that average finish of 13th. I think that's a little bit misleading. A couple of rough finishes thrown in there, but we've seen that 10 car be running up towards the front a lot this season.
Next up, Reece Shafer in the 7th position, starting off with 9 bonus points, racing out of Michigan for Tank Racing. Best finish on the season, only 3rd, but average start of 7th, so he qualifies really well and then kind of falls back a little bit throughout the race. If he can get a good finish here tonight, he's going to be strong going into next week.
I fully expect him to do well. Another driver I think is going to do really well compared to that average finish of 7th is going to be Dalton Tucker. He just has a lot of speed in that 73 Revs Racing car. Just does a great job. Had a little bit of bad luck at times over the course of the season, but he is one of the flat-out fastest guys we'll have here in the Cup Series.
Next up, the guy that nobody should sleep on, David Duke, really was running up front a lot last week, so really contending for the win there. But now he's moved from Tennessee down to Florida, so we can't say he's racing on the team from Tennessee anymore. But his best finish is 6th, his average start of 13th, average finish of 16th. So he's going to be middle of the pack most of the time, but every now and then he gets to a track that he absolutely loves and tears it up. This could be the night for him.
Absolutely could. And another one of the drivers to keep an eye on just for sheer consistency is going to be Scott Colal in the 23, one of our Canadian drivers here in the series. Average start 15th, average finish 15th, but the big story there is he just does not put himself in trouble very often. So if this comes down to a war of attrition in the playoff, I fully expect that 23 to be advancing to the next round.
Next up, Nick Goen, and this is another guy from Next Level Motorsports, but if you really look at him throughout the season, he's been the quiet one out of Next Level Motorsports. Not really a ton of incredible finishes, but he's always right there in the pack, starting off with 7 bonus points here tonight. Racing out of Georgia, he's got a chance at it, but he might be taking that Scott Healy role from last season because nobody expects him to be there.
The hottest point for him last season was the playoffs in the Xfinity Series. Expect that to continue. Another very consistent driver, Gabriel Ellison, average finish of 11th, which is really surprising this season. I think he's really a top 5 guy most nights. Just kind of got bit by some trouble over some of these races this year, but he's starting to pick up that momentum. Could be very dangerous going forward.
Next up, Dean Brummett, who was one of the strongest drivers last season, as well as one of the strongest drivers this season. Only 5 bonus points, so he hasn't had the best year, but he is another one of those drivers that he will surprise you, where he will be the guy that just out of the blue comes in first place. So average start of 8th place, average finish of 10th, best finish of 4th, but tonight he is feeling very, very confident about tonight's race.
Yeah, one of the very consistent drivers out there. Another very good driver that's really made a name for himself here this season is Michael Politis. You see that best finish of 3rd. Great interview when we got to talk to him after that race. Average start 17th, average finish 15th, so there's going to be a little work. He might be one of those outside threats to make that jump into the playoff 15, but I would not count him out in that 8 car.
And rounding out the field, Joshua Balliet from Tank Racing, based out of Pennsylvania. So his best finish is 3rd this season. Very consistent, though. Average start of 12th, average finish of 12th. And that might just be enough in this first round of the playoffs to make it through into the second round, but it won't be enough to win the title. He is going to have to pick it up just a little bit, but he has a strong opportunity to do that here tonight. And as we go out there to the track, Max Service from Tank Racing, he is going to be the first driver off, and then Dalton Tucker from Rev Racing finishing off that first row.
Row 2 is going to be all next level, as it's going to be Gabriel Ellison leading the way for the team in 3rd. Points leader James Holzer will be starting 4th. Row 3 going to be Dean Brummett, one of our independent drivers that we just talked about, and David Duke, man, not to count out here tonight, going to be starting in 6th.
Seth Berger has a ton of fans out there in the chat already from Tank Racing. He's going to start off in 7th. Seth Reed, one of our independents coming up from the Xfinity Series, he will start off in 8th. Timothy Latham from Next Level Motorsports will try to back up his win last week, starting off in 9th. Devin Zimmerman's going to try to get that win that was basically stolen from him on Thursday when he got caught up in that wreck. So he is starting off in 10th as an independent. And then rounding out the top 12, Reece Shafer in 11th for Tank Racing, and Nick Gowen from Next Level Motorsports starting off in 12th.
And I'm just taken aback by how close that qualifying session was, too. 14 thousandths of a second separating 1st from 7th. That is going to be a good indicator of what we're about to see tonight.
Yes, it will. And, man, all of these drivers, and again, there's not really a driver out there that I would say can't win this race. And so I'm going to let you take first shot at it here tonight, man. Who do you got?
Well, and we're actually looking at somebody that I think if I was just going to pick who's going to win the Lucky Dog, and it's not because he's on the pole, but just the momentum he's had, Max Service, I think, will be that guy out of that group that's going to be going for the Lucky Dog overall in the race. I'm going to go back a few rows, starting in the 9th position. Timothy Latham in the 5 car. A lot of momentum that he's built up after that win last week, as we check out one of the cool paint schemes there. There we go, Timothy Latham in the pink raised energy car. A lot of momentum from last week, but also very good on 1.5-mile tracks. Picked up a couple wins on him last season. He's always a top 5 threat. I think he gets the victory lane once again tonight.
You know what? I had mentioned a name to you before the broadcast started. I'm going to mention a different name now. I was going to go with Landon Lacy, but really, I like the position that Scott Healy is in here. I really like the fact that this is exactly how he did it last season, and he is trying to go back-to-back championships. I'm going to have to go with Scott Healy back here in the 16th position. Long way to get up to the front, but if anybody can do it, it is Scott Healy, the champ himself.
Never a bad pick to go with the defending champion, as they make quick work of this one lap. We're about ready to go green for 130 laps at Vegas.
Yeah, and if this earlier week is any indication, there's typically a quick caution as people try to figure out what they've got out there on the track, but then after that it kind of gets lined out. And once it gets lined out, it goes long. And so we are going to hopefully see the same thing because we had some stellar racing this week.
Yeah, I expect this to be a lot more like Wednesday than Thursday even. So if Wednesday was any indication, we are in for a wild one tonight.
Well, the green flag is out, and there goes Max Service. And on his outside, Dalton Tucker. Both of them get about an equal jump here, and we're going to see who can take it into the first corner. Max Service should be able to have that line, and let's see if he can get all the way past Dalton Tucker.
And just like that, it's already starting to look a little bit like Daytona as they kind of get lined out there, a couple wide, going all the way back through the field, looking at 3 wide here into turn 3 on lap number 1. Gabriel Ellison, a big dive to the inside. That's going to push Max Service up just a little bit as he gets Dean Brummett to the inside now, but they're going to make it work 3 wide here out of turn 4, and lap 1 goes to Gabriel Ellison.
Yeah, Gabriel Ellison coming out of nowhere to take the lead there. Dean Brummett already up 3 positions as he is going to take second. He's going to be on the inside of Max Service as they duel for that second position.
And I mentioned that it's going to be a lot more like the trucks on Wednesday than the Xfinity cars on Thursday, and that is because, like the trucks, these Cup cars can just about go flat out around this racetrack with the amount of downforce that they have. And the package that we run here in Las Vegas with the iRacing setup, they can just put this car wherever they want. There's 4 or 5 different lines you can really take around the turns if you want to. You can only make it work 3 wide, but there's different places you can put that car. This is going to be just a great race tonight if Wednesday was any indication.
Man, that just makes it fun. Anytime you can control the car through the corners, and instead of you having to kind of pedal it and try to figure out, all sorts of different lines and that sort of thing, anytime that you have complete control of that car, it is a fun race.
Oh, for sure. And one thing also, tires not going to be as much of a factor here because of the way that these cars run. It will play in late into the run, but it's going to take a while for those to actually really start wearing out on you. The only time you're really going to lift is if you get too much of a run with the draft pulling in front of you. Then you might have to back out of that throttle a little bit, but for the most part, they're going to be, you see it right there on the dash, 8,300 RPMs for Timothy Latham. He's basically going full throttle around these turns, even in the draft.
Yeah, and he is trying to make his way forward as he is back in the 7th position. And we'll go back just a little ways further. We got Reece Shafer out on the outside looking at making up some positions here.
That outside line, if everybody's going to try to run the inside, leaving that outside wide open, why not try to make it through there? If anybody checks up on that inside line, or you just kind of hit the apron or just get a little bit tight, take the wrong line in there, that outside's wide open to start making passes. Plus, you're going to get a pretty good-sized run once you get to the straightaway.
Going back up front, Gabriel Ellison really has not been able to pull away at all as Dalton Tucker ends up in 2nd position after passing Dean Brummett. And Dean Brummett and Max Service are going to be under fire. They're going to be against each other here shortly.
And I think unless we get green flag pit stops, which is very possible around 40 laps in, I don't think you're going to see a lot of separation from the lead because of the way that these guys are going to be running full throttle the entire way around here for the most part. It's just not going to give you that opportunity to really wheel your way into a good interval. It's just going to be just mash and go this entire time. So I think that's going to really keep this field packed in as we're seeing the top 10 separated by just 1.1 second.
So far, Max Service here in 4th place is holding that playoff lucky dog as his own, but a little bit further back in 13th, Austin Reedy starting to make a little bit of a charge. Started off in 17th, up to 13th. Sorry.
And watching him in practice, I was a little surprised seeing his name down on the speed chart, but I think one thing he was looking at was how am I going to be in the race mode and not really worrying so much about the hot laps to see where he was going to fan out in qualifying just because of the way that this racing goes. We got to look at the lead for Dalton Tucker to the outside of Gabe Ellison, and Tucker not quite clear going into 3. Ellison going to have a better run going to the inside, but there's going to be more of a run that's going to come for Dalton Tucker. But that little bit of a push from Dean Brummett to the inside just coming out of 4 kind of keeps Ellison in it. Now he's going to switch behind Dalton Tucker, and that's going to give him a little bit more momentum going into turn 1.
I was about to say, just look at Dean Brummett, just waiting for his moment, waiting for his shot to get up to the lead. And again, they all get bonus points if you lead a lap. They all get bonus points if you lead the most laps. So that is something that all these drivers are looking for, not just the win.
Not just that, you also have, the bonus point for a clean race. And with how close they're racing, that's something to keep in mind here as well. Not picking up any incident points. But Dalton Tucker going to lead the lap here for the first time, and that's going to give him a good edge here and try to make up some ground there in the playoffs as he comes into this in that tie for 7th place. So decent spot to be in, but he's still not far from 11th place Nick Gowen, only a couple points separating them coming into this race.
Yeah, last season's champion back here, Scott Healy, in 11th. Started off in 16th, has worked his way forward, which is exactly what he did last season. So do not sleep on the champ.
Not at all, chipping away spot by spot. That's something you can definitely do around here. Just be very patient, set up your moves, and start making those passes. Maybe about 1 a lap. It's just like that good pace where you're not pushing it too much. You're just kind of setting it up. The way that this package is, you kind of have to do it where if you're going to try to pass somebody coming out of turn 2, you might need to set it up going down the backstretch the lap before.
As they are starting to get into a single file line, which is going to make them even faster as these guys back in the back try to go side by side to get as many positions as possible.
And Scott Healy, your pick, defending champ, now moving up to 10th. And that's going to open up the door for Austin Reedy to try to take the 11th position from Joshua Balliet in the 7, who's kind of hung out to dry a little bit. Looks like he's going to get a little push. I believe that was Landon Lacy that's behind him, making his way through the field after starting pretty far back in 23rd.
It looks like David Duke, the guy that we can't sleep on, apparently, according to the YouTube chat, is up to 9th. Actually, he started off in 6th, so he's fallen back to 9th, but still up there in the top 10, making waves.
Doing very well as he is riding just behind Max Service, who's currently leading that Lucky Dog. And as we have Dean Brummett and Seth Berger side by side, this is the race for 3rd. One thing I did want to note, if you look at the scoring pylon on the left side of the screen, if you're trying to figure out who is eligible or who's running for that Lucky Dog, a good indicator, it's not going to be perfect because of the independents, but if their number is highlighted in red, that means that they're not in the playoffs. Numbers in green are playoff drivers.
Yeah, we will work and see if we can maybe cause a little bit more separation on that just so we can see exactly who is eligible for that playoff Lucky Dog. But up front, Dalton Tucker still leads this thing.
Yeah, nobody really threatening too much as everybody just settling in here on this opening run. And you got to keep in mind, this is going to be a pretty long race with how intense it's going to be for these guys. We start getting side by side again. So I think this is going to be that point where they're kind of just getting comfortable again and really just saying, you know what, we still got 2-3 more pit stops here in this race. This is going to be a long way around and do have a little bit of a smaller field tonight. So the likelihood of a caution isn't as high. So this could be one of those races that you got to keep in the back of your mind. Could possibly be green the entire way.
It could, and they're doing a great job out there keeping it that way. Now, current points leader James Holzer up here in 7th position, just kind of in the middle of all of this cluster back here, and that's not really the best place to be right now. Obviously, everybody is doing a great job keeping it clean, but you never want to be in the middle of a whole big beehive of stuff going on.
No, and especially it makes you a little bit even more nervy if you're in that pack and you're the one that's protecting that number 1 spot. You're the one that everybody's looking at going, oh, you're going to make it through anyway. But we've seen it in real life in the Cup Series, in the playoffs. We saw it last season. For some, there's contact. Dean Brummett and James Holzer, a little bit of contact between the right front and the left rear. Doesn't look like there's going to be any damage to either car, but that was a sketchy moment. And now you got Scott Healy pushing Dean Brummett heavy down the back straightaway. And that's just an example. One mistake, and all of a sudden that giant points lead over the bubble positions suddenly goes away.
And now we are 3 wide with Holzer on the outside as Dean Brummett now takes that outside position.
I think if you're James Holzer, you're just happy to find a little bit of daylight now in front of you. He's got a little bit of space there going back to Dean Brummett now, about 1/4 of a second, couple car lengths there. And that is just some fresh air that I think the points leader there in the 42 just desperately wanted to get to.
As you can see, Scott Healy up there in that top 10. Currently, he is the 2nd hard charger out there. The 1st hard charger, Landon Lacy, started off in 23rd, has moved all the way up to 13th already.
Another little dicey moment, by the way, is out on the front stretch. I believe Austin Reedy and Max Service made a little bit of contact there, got the 81 car a little bit loose. If it wasn't that, they were very close to doing it. It was just a little coincidental timing there. That 81 car having to work those hands pretty quick on that steering wheel, keep that thing going straight towards turn 1. But Landon Lacy, definitely the big mover here in this race so far, picking up 10 positions thus far, as make it 12 now as he picks up the 11th position. So we've been talking about it now. Him and James Holzer have kind of been just trading these big blows at each other all season long. Even though they are teammates, they've just been really competitive with each other. And Landon Lacy trying to make up that ground quickly and get right back up there to his next level teammate.
Man, this is the Hornet's Nest out there. All of these cars under a blanket, but up front, Dalton Tucker still leads this thing with Gabriel Ellison in second.
Yeah, we go from that mess that's going on back there around that 10th position to just the most cordial racing you can see for the lead, as the top 5, top 6, all sorted out single file. Nobody really threatening to shake that pattern either. And it looks like Ellison and Berger just really complacent just to be sitting there in that second and third position at this point in the races. We still have over 100 laps to go. Long way left. So no real reason to really push the envelope at this point.
Yeah, I think these front drivers especially are pretty sure that this thing's going to go green for a while. If it has not already gone to a caution, then it's pretty sure it's going to go green for a little while longer, and maybe they're already starting to think about saving those tires as much as possible to get as long of a stop as they possibly can here.
And they're either looking in the mirror or looking at relative, or they have a live spotter in their ear just communicating to them. But they all know at this point that behind Dean Brummett, it's really just that mess. And you can see that interval just clearing away more and more. I guess now to 9th place Scott Healy, as David Duke's kind of broken away from that as well. They stay single file. They're just going to continue to pull away. And that's going to make the margin of error on any green flag pit stops or any type of mistake that might happen out there. It's going to be just that less damaging. If you overshoot your pit stall on a green flag pit stop and you lose a second or so, suddenly you're only going to fall back from, one of these top 6 positions, maybe to like 10th or something like that, as opposed to it being just catastrophic and you're near the back of the pack. So if they stay single file, this is really setting themselves up for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and these front 6 have broken away by about a second and a half, roughly, back to Dean Brummett here in 7th, and then it's just a whole nother group back there. So it looks like everybody has, for the most part, gotten lined up. There's a little bit of racing here between Seth Reed and Austin Reedy.
And I think that comes in a way that they just know what's going on up front. They know that they're single file up there. And really, this group, their only chance to keep with them is to avoid that big cluster of racing that we saw. I wasn't going to go with the extra word on that. As it's just trying to keep it single file, trying to stay at the same rate of speed as the leaders. And even if they get single file for a big group here, they might pick up a little bit more speed than that lead pack. It's not going to be as strong of a difference as you would see at a Daytona or Talladega, but that little bit, even if it's a tenth a second a lap, it's just going to help this group out more if they can get single file.
Take a look at this. This is Max Service in the 81. Right behind him is Craig Lautenschlager. Both of them are going for that playoff lucky dog. So all of a sudden, Max Service, who started off back in about 3rd, has had to he started on the pole. He has come all the way back to 13th, and that's allowed a couple of drivers to get up there towards him for that playoff lucky dog position.
Another one, you don't have to look much farther behind that 13 car, is that one car of Austin Reedy, who was just on the outside looking in after last week. A bit of a heartbreaker there for him as he fell out of the top 15. But Austin Reedy, one of those guys, if he's in a position to get that lucky dog, or even one of those guys where if you're looking at who's going to be in potential to win a race, you look at that one car, just been some rough seasons here. Jordan Saylor's another one of the guys trying to get that lucky dog. And so we've got a good race for that wild card, as I like to call it, going forward here with 4 guys all within 5 positions of each other.
No, don't look now, but right behind Jordan Saylor's Byron McDonald, also involved in that. So you've got basically 5 drivers that are all right there within 3, 4, 5 spots of each other that you just never know. And here we are on lap 28. We still have 102 laps to go in this thing. Plenty of time to make your moves.
And that comes with, the top, the 13 drivers in the top 14 are playoff drivers at this point. So really, it's kind of being almost like two different classes at this point. It's almost like road racing with IMSA or something, where you almost have all the playoff drivers in one group there, up in the front, the top 12, all with their numbers in green, and then Joshua Balliet right behind. But then everybody else just kind of sitting back in that group, and that's going to make this real interesting, because if everybody has that communication in their ear of where the rest of the lucky dog contenders are, and there's only 6 in the field here tonight, they're going to be sitting there going, all right, where are they? Oh, they're all right there in this group next to each other. You can keep your eye on what's going on. It's not like you have one car that's way up in front and you're just not sure what's going on. I think that's going to keep the intensity up for those guys. It's going to keep them motivated, because they're not thinking, oh man, I'm 5 seconds back. This is just going to be great with how this is going to play out here over the next 100 laps.
Yeah, we are working to get those names highlighted for you here, so you can see exactly who has the opportunity to get in. I believe we'll have that here somewhat shortly.
Definitely appreciate that, as you're pulling double duty there tonight. Always impressive, doing the producing and the play-by-play. Try to give you a little bit of a break here to get that going, as we watch Dalton Tucker continuing to lead the way by a couple tenths of a second, but there's that line just swarming right behind him with Gabriel Ellison in second. Seth Berger continuing to hold third. Might have side-by-side here for a bit, as Reece Shafer and Timothy Latham looking to go side-by-side for fourth and fifth going into turn 1. And James Holzer is going to be right behind, and you know who he's going to be pushing out of that. He's going to go with his teammate there in the 5. It doesn't look like they're going to get enough of a run on the inside. Shafer going to hold on to fourth.
What a battle we've already had in this race, and again, I mean, we're completely lined up. But this first pack actually is only 9/10 of a second ahead of Scott Healy now. So remember, it was about a 1.5 second gap. So Scott Healy starting to make his way forward, as he has moved up 9 positions already in this race.
And part of that is just do the math. The straight line that they're having, that second group is 7-8 cars deep. And that's just going to create a little bit more energy than that 6 pack that's up front. And especially when you get some of those cars going side by side, that little bit, that's going to kill that draft that they have. So just that second group, just getting lined up there, 7 cars of them, that's just going to help them try to reel them in. And I think now Scott Healy especially is close enough that he's getting that pull from James Holzer up in front of him. It really is about 3/4 of a second. You get a pretty decent pull from a car in front of you if you can get lined up behind them, and he is well within that range.
Yeah, he is definitely getting that draft from James Holzer right in front. So you're looking at now, it's down to about 0.3 of a second. Dean Brummett trying to get that draft back from Scott Healy so he can connect both of these big groups together. And then it is just a big race to see who goes into the pits first.
That's the crazy thing, is by the time they catch them, we're very likely going to be going into green flag pit stops. It's about 40 laps that these guys are going to get. I think if you're sitting back in the pack, you might be able to pull an extra lap or so just by not having to be on the throttle as much to keep up speed. But Dalton Tucker, who's led this for so long, I think 40 laps is going to be about as far as he can push it. So it should be a couple laps from now that we start seeing these guys make their pit stops. And it could be right as we get these 2 groups to form that one mega group up front.
And this, we've seen a lot of damage coming off of or getting onto pit road here. So not the easiest pit road to get on, surprisingly. But, yeah, we've seen a lot of stuff happen there. As Scott Healy has connected with that group in front. And not only has he passed James Holzer, he's passed Timothy Latham as well.
Just so much energy with that draft. And he has had a huge run going into the out of turn 2, and it just led to picking up those couple spots. Suddenly Scott Healy inside the top 5, and just the way that car is looking, he looks like he's got that thing set up real well for his liking, with whether it be the steering ratio or the brake bias. Those are a couple of things that you can change. It's just the way that thing is driving. He really likes the feel of that car getting around here at Vegas.
Yeah, this is exactly what he did last season. You know, he got into the playoffs, and that's when he started really popping off of the good finishes, as Seth Berger going to the outside to try to take that spot away from Gabriel Ellison. And it looks like for the time being he will.
Seth Berger starting to come alive late in this run, and just that little bit of an edge as you get to the green flag stops, it just lets you be able to be in a position. I think second is a great spot to be in before a pit stop under green flag conditions, because you can see what the leader's about to do. It's a little bit close, so it's not like you can see like, oh, he's going to stay out, so I'm going to dive in. You don't quite have that kind of time, but you can kind of strategize based off what you're seeing the leader do. It's a good position to do some research, and I'm starting to see a little bit more communication on the driver chat. I think we're going to have some pit stops here coming this time by.
Yeah, we'll see who is the first to go in. But right now, this race is shaping up to be extremely fun. If they go 40 laps, then they would still have to pit on lap 80 and lap 120. So they can not only make it on 3 stops. So they're going to have, actually, I'm sorry, they can make it on 3 stops. They cannot make it on 2 as it sits right now. But if they could stretch that just to lap 43, then they could potentially make it on 2 stops.
And that's going to be more of a play for some of the guys that are farther back in the pack that can really utilize the draft. I think 3 laps at the rate that these guys are moving is going to be asking a lot to be able to save, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. And here comes the race leader, Dalton Tucker, first one down pit road.
A couple of guys in the back pitted this time around too, but Dalton Tucker, one of the first leaders down. David Duke coming in as well, Jordan Sailors as well.
Possibly a little team communication there with Duke and Sailors both making their pit stop here. And yes, definitely the first one of the leaders, I should correct myself there, making their pit stops as we now rotate forward to Seth Berger. He did pick up the bonus point last time by for leading that race lap. And this is starting to get interesting. You know, when I test out what the fuel is going to be, it's kind of on a track by myself. So maybe the draft is really working a little bit more because these guys getting 42 laps in, that's opening up that window. They might be able to stretch this far enough, and I might be eating a little bit of crow there, just being off on my calculation just a bit, but that draft might be a bigger factor than I was thinking when it comes to fuel mileage.
Now, again, that only works if it goes solid green. Now, if for whatever reason there is a caution somewhere in here, then all of those strategies go out the window. It's kind of like Mike Tyson said once, everybody's got a strategy until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many of these guys have been punched in the mouth, but it definitely does affect your decision making, and seeing more and more drivers starting to come up on the chat. So I think we're going to see pit stops still continuing here this time for sure. Sounds like we're going to see a lot more of the leaders this time by, but 43 laps in. This is going to get real interesting if they can make it the rest of the way on just 2 more stops should this stay green. Seth Berger. Oh, real hot coming down pit road, but he's going to be able to get that slowed up just in time, it looks like. But we also have Scott Healy, Landon Lacy. I see Max Service making a pit stop. Austin Reedy making a stop. Craig Lautenschlager. Basically all the Lucky Dog contenders making a pit stop this time, it looks like.
And the top 4 right now are all Next Level Motorsports. It looks like the entire Next Level Motorsports team, except for Landon Lacy, are staying out for at least 1 more lap, and that is something that has happened a lot this season. Landon Lacy has waited. He's actually been out there, or I'm sorry, Landon Lacy comes in 1 lap before everybody else, and it's happened for about the past 4 or 5 races. So interesting to keep a note on that. But Gabriel Ellison, Nick Goen coming in, as well as Joshua Siegfried, Lucas Lyons, but Timothy Latham, James Holzer stay out.
And I think I know what they're trying to do here, as Timothy Latham this time by picked up the bonus point for leading a lap. I would imagine that we'll see the 5 make his way to pit road this time by and give the 42 of James Holzer the lead to pick up a bonus point. And look at that, James Holzer now going to get the bonus point for leading a lap, and that team strategy working out perfectly for Next Level.
Perfectly choreographed. I mean, that is just how they've done it all season long. So James Holzer will come around, he'll get that bonus point, and then he will come into the pits as the last person to pit on this entire cycle. And just imagine, so he could make it 46 laps. And so if he can make it 46 laps, you know these other drivers are seeing that, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I make it 46 laps for these next 2 stints so that way I only have to pit 1 more time.
Oh, a little squirrely there, but still well under control for James Holzer as he hits pit road. And this should cycle back around to Dalton Tucker. And yes, it will. So Tucker going to hold the lead, and it looks like it's going to be about a 2-second lead over Seth Berger, and that's what we were talking about. Up until pit stops, it was going to be real hard to get separation, but now you see it with the way that pit stop strategy worked out, on-road times, off-road times, just everything that works into it. All of a sudden, we've got a wide interval here, a couple seconds between Tucker and Berger, as they're going to cycle back up front.
And there goes Dalton Tucker to get that lead back as James Holzer is coming out of the pits, and we'll see how everything shakes out. But Dalton Tucker first, Seth Berger second, David Duke third, Dean Brummett fourth, and Scott Healy in fifth. That's your top five.
Getting a good chuckle out of the radio chat with Dean Brummett and David Duke is a little bit of a Mickey Mouse sounding sound effect from Dean Brummett as he goes around the Minnie Mouse inspired car of David Duke. But they're the big winners here out of this round of green flag pit stops, as they're going to move up to the third and fourth positions with the way that it times out for them. Scott Healy going to still hold on to one of those top 5 positions after capitalizing on that big run right before the green flag pit stop sequence.
And that's a telltale that Dean Brummett is absolutely comfortable in his car. He is one of the funniest guys you will ever meet, one of the friendliest people you will ever meet. But when it comes down to driving, if he's not comfortable in the car, he is serious and he is quiet. But just the fact that he's having some fun with it right now means that he is very comfortable in that car and that he is on the move.
Yeah, that is a warning sign to everybody else in the field that 25 might be on something here good tonight, as he's gotten to about a second and a third behind Dalton Tucker in that race lead, and that's closing in a hurry because here we go. Seth Berger on a little bit fresher tires going to take that lead from Dalton Tucker and re-pick up that top spot going into one. Dean Brummett going to follow through that open door, and look at the bunch all of a sudden that everybody's packed into.
Yeah, and that's going to be the struggle with this strategy, is that, yeah, you might have some newer tires, but if you have to pass 8 other guys to get to the front, it is going to burn your tires just that much more. So Seth Berger, Dean Brummett looking really good right now as Dean tries to figure out a way around him.
I think, can we go back to the 73 of Dalton Tucker? I think there's some damage on the nose of that car on the right front. It's either that or it's just the way the paint scheme's hitting, but it looks like he's got some damage.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah, big-time damage to the right front. So I don't think it's tires that's the issue for the 73. He picked up some damage somewhere. I'm going to try to look back and see if I can figure out where that came from.
Yeah, and definitely interesting for somebody that's led most of this race. We'll have to see exactly how that happened, but he is not going to have any time to get that fixed. As Seth Berger leads.
Yeah, that is a tough spot to be in. I'm kind of looking back at the same time as watching what's going on live. Not sure where that damage came from, but it's been there for a little bit. Because I've gone back a few laps, so I'm not sure when he picked that up, honestly, but it looks like it's really affecting the handling of that car because he's fallen all the way back to the 8th position.
I wonder, was it on pit road?
Yeah, because I haven't seen him around anybody. I'm kind of rewinding a good bit. So it might have been something from previous even, and he's just had that for a while, and we just kind of haven't noticed it up until this point. Heck, I have not seen anything really since he regained the lead, or at least past Seth Berger back on lap 44. So it's been a long, long time that he's had that damage.
He is definitely fallen back. He is back to 9th position now as Seth Berger continues to lead here. Now, Scott Healy, last season's champion, we saw him moving all the way through the pack, and now here he is in 3rd, trying to track down his former teammate, Dean Brummett.
And the 25 and the 64 might have the most momentum of anybody here in this race. Dean Brummett obviously feeling good in that car tonight, but that 64 of Scott Healy has just really been on a rail since, I would say, the last 20 laps or so. Once he caught that lead pack before we had the green flag pit stops, showed that he really might have the dominant car here in this race. If he can get out in front, he's got a lot of speed. And somebody that might be hoping he makes a pass here pretty soon is Reece Shafer. So I think he's going to be more than happy to follow through the line that Healy might be taking here pretty soon.
Another driver to note, way back in 22nd, you see a lot of damage there for Austin Reedy. And remember, he was fighting for that playoff lucky dog, and he has fallen way off the pace here. Jordan Sailors and Joshua Siegfried back here as well. I don't see any damage on them. They're just kind of behind. But that playoff lucky dog starting to heat up with Max Service and Craig Lautenschlager.
By the way, nicely done. I see the yellow numbers now for the Lucky Dog drivers. You see Max Service in 13th, Craig Lautenschlager in 14th. They're the two that are currently racing for that playoff Lucky Dog edition to be the 16th man in the playoffs, but the entire top 12 made off of guys that are already consisting of the top 15, first 15 drivers that are in the playoff, all led now by Seth Berger, who continues to hold that lead by about a quarter second over Dean Brummett.
And we've got a little bit of a look here from Kyle Benson. Going to go down to the inside, try to look at that spot from Reece Shafer.
Really digging that paint scheme there on the 10
I
car.
was about to say, I'm going to zoom in on that. That is a good-looking car.
I'm loving the roof numbers. You don't get many.
Contact.
Oh wow, we zoomed in at the right time for the show. The wrong time there for the 10 and the 27. Hopefully no damage there for either of those cars. It didn't look like that heavy of a hit, but just enough to make that contact and get both those cars a little unstable.
Is that a broadcaster's curse?
I mean, you know how I feel about it, so most anything's a broadcaster curse these days. But I feel like I put the broadcaster curse on myself as a driver just by being in the booth. But we get that side-by-side racing again. This time it's teammates. James Holzer currently holding the 9th spot, just ahead of Timothy Latham in 10th, as they both get ready to make their way around Lucas Lyons, who is one lap down in 26th. Another nice paint scheme there, though, for the 07. New paint scheme for the 42, running orange and blue this time, as the points leader picking up those spots and starting to make his way back through the field again.
Yeah, and remember, he started off in 4th. He is back in 9th, but he was also the last one to pit on that first cycle. So we'll see if that comes into play here a little bit later.
That lead still holding about that 3/10 or so for Seth Berger, as Dean Brummett just not able to get much closer. It's almost like there's a big bubble between the two cars. So the 77 sitting in a great position, and it continues to be Brummett, Healy, Shafer, and Ellison just kind of lined up right behind in 2nd through 5th. Kyle Benson also in that group in 6th.
Well, I'll tell you, Dean Brummett would love to have this win, but he's already one of the most winning drivers in Speed Racing Network history. And so really, if he comes in 2nd place here, then he would be super happy about that, because that just vaults him up the standings. Right now, he started off in the 13th position, but if he gets a 2nd place here, that would definitely vault him up into the top 10, where he is a little bit safer.
And that would be huge for him. And to kind of look at it at the other side, and one thing to note here for people that are joining us that maybe haven't all season long, a win does not automatically advance you to the next round. We do not have that rule like they do in the Cup Series in real life. So it's going to be sheerly based on points. The win obviously will go a long way to help you out there, but it's not the automatic berth to the next round. But for Seth Berger, you think about how much a win would mean for him at this point in the season, coming into this in 4th. But, those bonus points, the way it worked out, the top 3 are just so far ahead of 11th place Nick Gowen, who's got 7 bonus points. It's only 4 more points, that gap, to go all the way up to 4th place in Seth Berger. Also Scott Healy in that tie as well. So the win for Seth Berger would just go a long, long way to helping his chances here this season.
The only close race that we have out here, Scott Kalal going side by side right now with Seth Reed. And it looks like Seth Reed is going to get that position as Devin Zimmerman on the outside there of Scott Kalal also. So that is really the closest battle on the track. Going back a little bit, now we're back up to the front. Looks like Dean Brummett's kind of reeled in Seth Berger a little bit. Still not going to be able to make it there.
Yeah, he had a great run, but it just shows that it's a little difficult to pass around these cars if you just don't have that side-by-side kind of pack racing. If you're single file like this, it's just hard to get that run because everybody's just going pretty much full throttle around here. There's just not many opportunities. And I think Seth Berger is doing the right thing by kind of cheating up towards the high side of the track and getting that momentum. But here's the run for Dean Brummett as he's going to finally sneak down to the inside, see if he can make this work, pinning it down to the inside. Seth Berger going to give him some room. It's still early enough in the race. Not going to try to hold him down, and Dean Brummett going to take the lead here for the first time tonight.
Yeah, but look a little bit further back. Scott Healy on the inside there. Gabriel Ellison on the outside. Scott Healy was trying to follow Dean Brummett through, just didn't quite make it there just yet. But he will line himself out in 4th position.
I'll give a bonus point to Dean Brummett as he's going to lead that lap, and we're just past halfway in a very quick race around here in Las Vegas. 130 laps in this race, 65 down, 65 to go. Race leader, Dean Brummett.
Yep, his Sweeper 1 carpet cleaning car out there, as well as Eastern Roof Technologies. And it looks like Select Real Estate Group as well. So all sorts of great sponsors for him out there. Congratulations to him for this great season, but also for being up front right now.
Trying to follow suit. No, he's a big Kyle Larson fan, and no shock seeing how successful Larson's been. And Dean Brummett trying to follow in those footsteps a bit here and start off the playoffs with a big win and really help his chances to advance. Again, we talked about it, 13th in the point standing, so he would be one of the 5 eliminated if it ended before it even started at the start of this race. But a win would just put him in a great position to make it into the next round of 10.
I mean, I'm just amazed at how clean everybody is being. There are some drivers out there that have got some damage, but for the most part, they have been extremely respectful out there on the track.
Yeah, and I think once you get a little bit farther, maybe after this next round of pit stops, that might start to fade a little bit. But everybody's been very courteous with each other here to this point. And one thing I do kind of want to touch on, too, we talk about the first round of the playoffs of 3 races. It's going to end at Auto Club, but before we get there, we're going to another... Oh, Dalton Tucker. And we talked about the damage that he has on that right front. This might be something that he's just thinking, you know what, the handling's gone. I need to take care of that. The problem is he's guaranteeing that he's going to need 2 more stops the rest of this race, as he's not going to be able to make it on 1 more stop alone. So this could set him up to be in a very bad position. And to kind of go back to the point, you know, before we get to Auto Club to close out this round, the next race is Kentucky, another 1.5 mile tri-oval. It's not going to be as similar to Las Vegas as you would think, but it's still going to be close enough that I think these guys that are doing well here are going to do well again next week. So if you have a great finish here, it might set you up real well in this first round.
Yeah, you know, when the admins put together this entire series and put together this schedule, they wanted to be sure that there weren't any crazy wild card races in the playoffs where, you know, could mess up a bunch of people. They wanted to see who the best driver actually was. So a lot of those playoff races are going to be 1.5 miles, 2 miles, that sort of thing. The only one that's kind of an outlier, or only 2 actually, Indianapolis is kind of an outlier just by the shape of it, and Phoenix being almost on the verge of a short track.
And those are going to be coming up in the second round that we'll be seeing. And that second round is just so different with how it's laid out. But and again, I don't want to just say it's an identical track, Las Vegas and Kentucky. There's a lot of differences there. It's a lot grittier in Kentucky, a lot smoother here. You're not going to see that full throttle at Kentucky. The other thing you're going to see is a lot of 5 wide on the front stretch. If it gets to that point on these restarts or late in the race, you get one of those overtimes, because they're going to have a lot more space on the apron on the front stretch than we do here. So it's going to be a different race, but it's a similar track, and I think that's going to be where that confidence thing comes in if you do well tonight.
Going back to 5th place here, current points leader, James Holzer, back here in 5th. Now, he's worked his way forward because he was back in 10th after that pit stop, so he has moved up, and looks like he is trying to consider, does he want to make a move on Kyle Benson here?
Oh, he's going to go way up high, running that wall line around. And that's actually going to cost him a couple spots. He might have just backed out of that, actually. The way that he got passed by a few definitely looks like he just chose to back out of that pack racing that was going on.
And so back up front, Dean Brummett still leads this thing. The other thing with James Holzer is that I saw some blinking there. And there is a blinking policy in effect. And in fact, I just got a message from the admin saying that yes, they told him that he had to go to the end of the line because of his blinking issues. Just the cars were too close.
That makes sense. Did hear the warning earlier in the race due to excessive blinking. They kind of just gave him that little notification of like, hey, you're blinking a lot. We might have to take action if it continues. So they definitely did take action, as it has obviously continued. So Holzer going to fall back to 11th, still in a solid spot though at the moment, with plenty of racing left, about 55 laps to go, and Dean Brummett continuing to pull Gabriel Ellison around here, and it's getting close though. Ellison going to take a look on the inside as he got that big run through 1 and 2, and Gabriel Ellison back to the front as he's going to make quick work there of Dean Brummett, who's going to fall back in line quickly to stay in front of Scott Healy, but Healy going to stick the nose to the inside and try to make the pass for second. And Scott Healy going to move to second with Benson right behind him.
Yeah, going back to the Holzer, to the James Holzer thing, I don't think that would be the situation if he had like a 3-second lead on people. I think it was just because everybody was racing so closely together that they didn't want a blink to come into play where, you know, it could cause an accident. So good job by the admins there. But again, you know, I think that part of it was just they were in a big group together.
Yeah, and that's something that they're very mindful of, and especially one thing that I know has been a big talk in the league in general is just ever since the latest major update from iRacing, netcodes have been a bit more prominent. We saw that heavy on Thursday in the Xfinity race. And we saw it on Wednesday, too, in the truck race, where we had a single-car spin that honestly should have stayed a single truck spin, but netcode kind of brought in 7-8 more trucks into that wreck, unfortunately. So I think that's going into that equation as well, that the netcode, the way the servers are communicating, has just been a little bit more unpredictable. So they want to be better, more safe than sorry, as we continue to take the look at Gabriel Ellison, still leading the way. Dean Brummett getting a bit of a threat there on the outside from Timothy Latham. That the race for fourth.
Yeah, unfortunately, netcode is just part of the simulation, and you know, definitely hate to see that. You never want to see a simulation, you know, really mess with the drivers because of netcode and that sort of thing. But it's one of those things that these drivers have to know is there, and it should adjust the way that they drive as well. So they might not want to go as close to that other car as you would in real life, just because that netcode could rear its ugly head and you could be out.
And look at the way that these guys are racing. That's something that could come into heavy play around this racetrack, because you look at what they're doing, how close this racing is. The side draft could be a huge benefit for somebody if you're good at learning how to pack that air into the left rear or right rear wheel well and really kind of pull the parachute on that car that you're racing and getting side by side with. With the way that the netcode has been, we've kind of had that talk, a lot of the drivers have had that talk of you might need to give a little bit more space just to avoid wrecking because of the netcode. That's going to take that side drafting out of the equation.
Well, the top 10, or top 11 actually, are all right there within about 1.25 seconds of each other. So really, really tight front pack there. But then right here in 12th, Max Service is the leader right now for the playoff Lucky Dog, and he has a good 2-second lead on Craig Lautenschlager, who is second in that.
Man, he is just singing all by himself there. He's got 2 seconds behind him, 3 seconds in front of him, nobody around Max Service. That's a pretty good feeling at this point as we get ready to come down to our possible final pit stop of the night, with the way that we've seen that these cars can stretch it to 45, 46 laps. It's very possible we only see 2 pit stops here for most of these drivers.
David Duke coming in.
David Duke making his way onto pit road, and I don't know about 49 laps. That might be pushing it a little too far.
Yeah, not sure if he just kind of put himself in that position, but Byron McDonald coming in as well. But any of these drivers that make it to lap 86 can, in theory, make it all the way to the end based on what we saw.
Yeah, 86, maybe 85, based on James Holzer going 46 laps on that first stop. But, you know, he had the big benefit of being in the pack for most of that time, so he could be in max fuel-saving mode at that rate. These guys like Gabriel Ellison or Dean Brummett that have led for a long way. Wow, clutching. So he's definitely got it in his mind, knowing that he has not had a lot of drafting help to kind of save some fuel. So he's taking it as far as clutching it while in the lead. That is a brave strategy, because if you mistime that, all of a sudden you're going to be thrown right into that pack with everybody. But Gabriel Ellison, one of the more talented drivers in the league, very, very good driver, knows what he's doing. So I will trust that he's doing the right thing there. But aggressive fuel saving, and that tells you how close this is going to be in fuel mileage.
Yeah, James Holzer apparently over his blinking issues, because he is back up in 4th position racing with all these guys. So apparently the blinks have gone away as he is working on Kyle Benson.
Man, that is just such a weird system thing when you start blinking, and it can be a whole lot of things. It could be graphics, it could be the internet connection that you have, if it's wired or wireless. All those things come into play, even where you live, if you're in an apartment or a house. So it's so unpredictable. But I have not noticed him blinking here for a while. So clearly he's in a good position, and still single file here for our top 10, as still waiting on who the next one to bite and come down pit road is going to be, and it should be pretty soon. And possibly Gabriel Ellison? No, not this time by. But they're starting to get to the point, fuel window open to make it to the end of this race.
And now it's just a matter of waiting to see who it's going to be, because we are here on lap 86, and we know for a fact people can make it 44 laps. So let's see who is going to be the one to lead a lot of these guys down into pit road.
Sounds like we're going to have some this time by. And looking at the way that they're lined up, yep, Landon Lacy going to be the first one here in this lead pack to make a stop. And I'm curious, he's got some pretty heavy damage to the back end of that car. Thankfully, the spoiler for him not showing that wrinkle, as we got Max Service and Scott Kowal side by side coming down pit road. Seth Reed in the 81, Devin Zimmerman in the 33 down pit road as well. So 5 of the top 15 drivers making their pit stop this time.
Gabriel Ellison still leads, Scott Healy just behind, as it looks like both of them are, I thought they were kind of getting ready to come down into pit road, but they are not. So the only ones coming down into pit road now, Seth Berger coming down to pit road, as well as Dean Brummett.
And we're starting to get to the point, I think right about now, you're getting to the point where you feel pretty comfortable. I think if you stretch it to lap 90, you're feeling very comfortable that you can make it the rest of the way. But at that point, you're kind of gambling that this undercut, that the fall off on time isn't gigantic, as Gabriel Ellison going to make his stop. Scott Healy right behind him. Looks like Kyle Benson as well. Nick Gowen and Reece Shafer also making a pit stop. So a lot of that lead pack coming in this time by. The fall off, by the way, not too big in terms of time. The tires don't really fall off as much, so you're not gaining too much with the undercut. That's not going to be as big of a thing, but it still is noticeable enough. You don't want to stretch it too far.
James Holzer reassumes the lead, as remember, he was the last one to pit on the last cycle. Timothy Latham comes in as well, so now the only two that have not pitted, actually, nope, sorry, James Holzer, the only one that has not pitted yet.
I would imagine it's going to be this time by for Holzer. There's not a whole lot of reason to stay out much longer. You're already comfortably within range to be able to make it the rest of the way once you make this final pit stop, should it stay green till the end of this race. And away from the camera, had side by side on the apron coming off pit road for Kyle Benson and Reece Shafer. They both make it work. Oh, wow, drifting on the pit road for James Holzer.
Now, assuming Dalton Tucker will come in and he will take this lead away from James Holzer, but he pitted on lap 68. There is no chance that he can make it all the way to the end, so he is going to have to pit again. You can see the damage on his car there. So right now, the one behind him, David Duke, who everybody said don't sleep on David Duke. Now, he pitted on lap 81. Can he stretch it 49 laps?
I just don't see it. Now, obviously, I've been wrong because I thought this was about a 40, 42 lap fuel run that these guys are getting. Obviously, it's more like 45 or 46. I just don't know about 49 laps. That's asking a whole lot. And the other part of that, too, is even if you can stretch it that far, you're going to have to save so much that it's going to put you in a bad position to get caught by everybody anyway. That's a big ask to be able to hang on to this lead and stretch it that far at the same time.
I think Holzer must have gotten some sort of damage repaired or something. His pit stop took a little bit longer, 15.32 seconds. He has fallen all the way back to 14th position.
Ooh, and that would only be about a 2-second damage repair. And I hate asking this on air, but on your system, is it the pit time? Is it just total pit time, or is it if there's an overshoot or an undershoot?
I have both. I have both. So his total pit lane time was 45.97, which is about a second and a half more than most of the others. And then 15.32 seconds was his actual pit time, which is, again, more than everybody else. So had a little bit of trouble seeming to get into the pits, but not only that, had to stick around in the pits for just a little bit longer.
And you think about the speed that these guys are pulling, 180, 185 miles an hour, if not 190 in the draft. It does not take long to fall way behind when you're having a struggle on pit road. And the other part you have to think about, too, was he was the last one to pit. So he was running those laps on older tires while everybody got fresh tires, running maybe a half second to a full second faster each lap. That's, that 2 seconds there, because of the way that he played out that strategy, could be 4 or 5 seconds in how it really plays out.
Well, here is your battle for second as Gabriel Ellison passes Dalton Tucker. They are still 3 seconds behind David Duke. David Duke has a massive lead on everybody, but again, can he make it 49 laps?
Just saw Dalton Tucker dive onto pit road. That'll be his final pit stop of the night, should we stay green for these final 35 laps. And that interval, David Duke, it was about 4.5 seconds ahead of Gabriel Ellison. That is down a couple of seconds here in the last handful of laps.
So we will keep an eye on that gap. But the other interesting race going on, Max Service back here in 12th place. He has a 6-second lead on second place in the playoff Lucky Dog standings. Joshua Siegfried in the 60 is back there in 14th place, but again, 6.5 seconds behind Max Service right now.
Yeah, if you're Joshua Siegfried, if you're Jordan Sailors, you're kind of sitting there thinking, all right, might be time that we need a caution at this rate. If not a mistake from Max Service, because 7 seconds now, that gap, that's asking a whole lot to be able to close that in. You're looking at about 0.2 a second a lap, and that interval is still growing the opposite direction you would want. If you're Siegfried, if you're Sailors, if you're Raul Meza, another one of the drivers that we just haven't talked about much today, he's running 4th out of those Lucky Dog guys. They're going to need a lot of help, if not just getting a flat-out caution to kind of bunch this field back up to really have a shot at getting to Max Service.
Perfectly clean race so far, and there are a lot of drivers out there that would love to see a caution, and a lot of drivers out there that would absolutely despise it.
Yeah, honestly, I think at this point, if you're Gabriel Ellison, if you're Seth Berger, that's the last thing you want to see. I think if you're David Duke, you kind of want to see that caution at this point, because you've seen that interval close about a half second a lap with Gabriel Ellison just breathing down right now, as really just getting all that energy from that draft, as they're still single file, little bit fresher tires by about 8 laps. Just all of that is a perfect storm, and he is closing in quickly on the race leader.
Yeah, just so you can see exactly what we're talking about here, look at the difference in time between first place and second place.
Man alive, looking at 2 full seconds the last 3 laps. 3/4 of a second on 2 of those laps alone. And David Duke, he's even just going to say, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and give this one away. He's not even trying to defend that lead, as he knows how much faster that line is, led by Gabriel Ellison, who's going to reassume the lead.
That is such a helpless feeling there, because, again, if he is trying to stretch this thing out to go to the finish, then he can't go faster, because if he does, then he's going to run out of fuel.
And he decided not even to try it. He came down pit road.
Yes, he did. So he will come down and get a full service. If nothing else, he's just going to get full fuel. But Gabriel Ellison back to the lead here. His teammate Timothy Latham in second.
Well, the problem for David Duke is going to be that's going to put him 1 lap down, and he's going to be joining Dalton Tucker and Kyle Benson. They're going to be the only 2 off the lead lap that are playoff drivers, and now, excuse me, the only 3 as you throw David Duke into that now. So they're really digging a hole at this point. And Dalton Tucker going to be leading that lucky dog race for getting a lap back should the caution come out. David Duke really putting himself in danger with that strategy.
Yeah, but what else can you do? You know, these guys were just so much faster, 0.7 of a second faster per lap. You know, you got to do something about it. So now, in the meantime, James Holzer, who had a bad pit stop, has made his way all the way back into the top 8. And so he is caught back up with this lead pack. And so just be aware that our points leader is up there in that lead pack looking to do some damage.
Yeah, that Jaws music is starting to get a little bit louder in the background as we get to the final 30 laps, and you see how easily he's just holding on to that outside line, and now he's in line with a teammate. Is Landon Lacy going to be right in front of him? That might be a little bit of danger for everybody in the field, as we also got a pair of next-level drivers, give me a trio of next-level drivers getting lined up front as Nick Goen moves into the 3rd spot.
Yeah, Nick Goen taking his normal spot as the quiet one, which is all of a sudden up there in the top 3. So that's kind of how we've seen him all season long. Is he's not the most splashy guy out there, but man, he makes a splash when he needs to, and that is what he's doing right now. As top 3 are all next level, this could end up being a top 5 all next level at some point.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of team sweeps of podiums this season. I don't think we've seen a team go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at all in SRN. You've been here longer, obviously, since you've been here since the start, but I don't think that's ever happened, to my recollection at least. But it's got a shot of happening tonight, but obviously a few guys are standing in the way of wanting that to happen, and that includes Seth Berger and Reece Shafer, teammates for Tank Racing, as we have teams that are on buys right now, taking the top 6 positions on the field. Which keeps that playoff that team playoff standings really interesting for the guys that do not have buys, because they're all going to be bunched up there towards the mid to the bottom of the racetrack, so you know, of the standings. So we'll see exactly how that all shakes out, but right now Next Level Motorsports really putting on a show here with all 5 of them in the top 8. And the top 3 are the ones that, you know, we look at Holzer and we look at Lacy and all the wins that they've had this season. Latham joined them in the win club this past week at Michigan, getting that win to close out the regular season. But Gabriel Ellison has not found victory lane yet. Nick Goen has not found victory lane since a couple of back-to-back Xfinity wins last season during the playoffs when he wasn't in the playoff. So he just late in the season to have that charge, and here he comes again late in the season. But one thing with Nick Goen, I don't think that we've really talked a lot about. We touched on it early on in the season, but he was racing through a torn ACL, as now he's got James Holzer on the inside. But he had a torn ACL and was still racing. And I know it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but you think about it, you know, that your knees are still somewhat important. You need your legs a little bit to be working the pedals in these cars, just with the way that the setup is. So to do so with a torn ACL, still be up there in the points like he was, be a playoff contender, and work through that healing process, just big credit to him for being able to put up with that this season.
And James Holzer has broken into the top 3. Oh! Jordan
caution.
Sailors wrecks in front of the pack. I don't think he got anybody else involved in that, but we do have our first yellow flag, and we'll go to our first wreck replay as Jordan Sailors was right in the middle of the pack.
My goodness, that just came out of nowhere as Sailors got to the apron. Not sure if anything happened just before that.
Oh!
And then Austin Reedy got loose off of 4 and just hooked him right into the wall.
And again, there go the leaders, and wow, they did a great job to get around Jordan Sailors without any damage at all, as we'll go back and take another look at it. But it looks like
off the apron. Then a little contact and just got loose off of 4, it looks like. And that right rear contact will send you into the wall almost every time. And what's the old Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip line? That changes everything out here, as now everybody on the lead lap gets re-racked, and they're going to get some fresh tires, full tank of fuel, and everybody going to be on level playing ground at this point.
Yep, everybody coming in. The question is, are you going to get all 4 tires? Some of these guys might do the 2-tire strategy. We'll see what happens. We have not really seen it work out that well so far here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but you never know. Somebody could take that risk. It doesn't look like anybody's going to take it. I think everybody took 4 tires and full fuel.
Yeah, it looks like everybody went pretty conventional, 4 tires and fuel, like you were saying, as we're going to have Timothy Latham back out front. Gabriel Ellison still second. Nick Gowen still third. James Holzer still fourth. Scott Healy, the only one that's really going to move up. I think he only moved up 1 or 2 spots, though. Landon Lacy fell back a bit.
He had damage,
in the top 10. Yeah, he did have that rear bumper damage, so I guess he took some time to repair that, as he's going to fall back to 17th. And yeah, that rear bumper looking a lot better than it did, so he definitely took that time. So keep an eye out for him with the fresh car now. But the big winner out of that might be Max Service, who's going to move into the top 10. But the problem for him is he had that 7-second gap, and now it's going to be right on his back bumper. Raul Meza going to be the closest Lucky Dog contender.
Right, I was going to say, I think Max Service is the one that didn't want to see that more than anybody else because he had that absolutely won. There was no way anybody was going to catch him for that playoff Lucky Dog. And now everybody side by side by side. It is going to be an epic finish here with 21 laps to go. We'll probably get to 20 before we get to the green flag. Looks like David Duke going to come in and get 4 fresh ones again, or at least maybe some more fuel. I'm not really sure why he would do that, but
I believe, looking at it, I think he got a wave around. I think he got back on the lead lap, so this is his way. He was going to be in the back anyway.
So he will come in and he will get his service done. But Timothy Latham and Gabriel Ellison, 2 teammates, they lead the way. Back behind them, Nick Gowen and James Holzer. They will be row 2, all 4 of them, Next Level Motorsports.
And alive, this is going to be exciting racing. We've thought that, it's gotten single file for a lot of it, but remember back to the start of the race and how we were seeing that side-by-side, 3 wide. We were seeing a lot of great racing, 20 laps to go, probably going to be more like 19 or 18 to go when we take the green flag. It is going to be all gloves off going for the finish here, and this might get real interesting with how some people are going to approach it, because there's going to be some drivers out there that are going to look at this and think, you know what, I want to protect my points. I'm fine with the top 5. I don't need to push it for much more. I'm in a good spot points-wise. There's going to be some guys that are farther back in the points that are thinking, I got to go and make up as much ground as I can. There's going to be so many different strategies in this final sprint to the finish that it could set up something where we might see some of these guys that have looked comfortable all night all of a sudden find themselves near the back of this pack.
Well, right now, top 9 are all playoff drivers. Max Service, the only one in the top 10 that is not a playoff driver. Raul Meza is going to line up right behind him in the 12th position, and they are going to be fighting for that playoff Lucky Dog. Landon Lacy, who had to get some damage repaired, is going to start in the 16th position, and so he is going to have some work to do if he still wants to stay up in the top 5 of the playoff standings.
And amazingly enough, you mentioned Max Service in 10th, the lone non-playoff driver in the top 10. If he wins that Lucky Dog, 10th place finish, he might find himself up into the top 10 in the point standings by the end of this night, just because he's going to get that wild card, that Lucky Dog spot, and all of a sudden he's going to be a contender to move on to the next round after this opening race with a solid finish. So don't count out whoever's going to walk out with the Lucky Dog to be a threat to advance.
Well, not just with a solid finish on his own, but also keep in mind that there are 5 drivers that are currently in the playoffs that are outside the top 15 right now. And so bad finishes by other people and good finishes by you, that vaults you up the standings. All right, Timothy Latham and Gabriel Ellison side by side as they get the party started as we go back green with 19 to go here at Las Vegas.
Scary sight for everybody. 5th on back as you had 2x2 of next level cars, and you know that they were communicating with each other to try to work out how they can make the most out of that restart. But Gabriel Ellison's going to fall back to the 4th position out of that as the inside got the big run, as Nick Gowen going to move into the 2nd spot right behind Timothy Latham, who's going to continue to hold the lead.
Yeah, Nick Gowen still looking for his first win on the season. Gabriel Ellison still looking for his win on the season, or his first win on the season. So we'll see if that happens here in 18 laps. But a little bit further back, we are still side by side after the restart.
And we watch this possible 3 wide. One thing to keep an eye on is Craig Lautenschlager has passed Max Service. They're now side by side coming out of turn 2. That for the wild card to move into the playoff.
Max Service in the 81, Craig Lautenschlager in the 13 behind him now. So Max Service just trying to put any distance he can on Craig Lautenschlager. Joshua Balliet, Max Service's teammate, is between them now.
And if you're Joshua Balliet, you might be thinking, I want to help my teammate get that lucky dog. But at the same time, you can't sit back too much and start blocking because you're a playoff driver. So I don't know how much help that Max Service is going to get with a teammate being between him and the rest of the lucky dog contenders.
As it looks like his teammate's going to go down to the inside. So looks like Max Service is going to get passed by Joshua Balliet. And now Max is going to have to deal with Craig Lautenschlager on his own.
Hey, we heard it from Landon Lacy in a post race a couple times, where it's one of those things like you want to work with your teammates, but once you get to the playoffs or you get in some of those positions, teammates go out the window. You're going to help each other to an extent, but you got to think about yourself sometimes. And Balliet's in that spot as a playoff driver and sitting 15th out of the 15 coming into tonight. He's got to make up points. He can't spend time helping a teammate.
Scott Healy finally breaks up the top 4 of Next Level Motorsports as he ekes by to get 4th position, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to hold it.
No, because Gabriel Ellison's going to have the pole in front of him as all those Next Level cars going to be on the inside, hooking that white line just around the apron, but still Healy with a good run. Contact between the two. They might have made a little bit more contact if they had not. They were very close to it, but still side by side. And this is just great news for the top 3, though, as they're going to continue to just pull away a little bit ahead of this pack.
What a great race we've had so far, and we still have 14 laps of this to go as Scott Healy does everything he can to make it around Gabriel Ellison to try to make his way into the top 3.
Don't look now, but I see a pink and black car starting to make his way into the picture as well, as Landon Lacy's moved up, I believe that's to the 12th position, right behind Max Service, 13th for Lacy, but he is on a tear these past couple laps, and if he gets into this draft and starts making some moves, he might make himself make another shot at that 1 through 5 spot for Next Level Motorsports.
Yeah, Dean Brummett in that inside line trying to work his way forward as he works on Reece Shafer, I believe.
Dean Brummett trying to make the 7th position as he's got the inside line on Seth Berger. Reece Shafer right in front of him, and that's actually going to help Brummett as opposed to Shafer's teammate Seth Berger. Shafer going to slide up high, and that's going to give a little bit of a draft, but we're still going to be side by side from 4th place on back. So now it's just going to be straight up pack racing at this point.
And really, those front 3 haven't really been able to pull away too much. So we will we'll see if Scott Healy can finally make that pass. It looks like he finally gets by Reece Shafer and Gabriel Ellison for that 4th spot.
And this could be interesting because we've seen how much power he has when he gets a little bit of a run. He's going to have a pretty good-sized run going into turn 1. Might be able to set himself up to possibly start making moves once you get into turn 3 and down the back straightaway, because he's going to have that little bit of a pull that he hasn't had as he's had to deal with that side-by-side racing. And look how much closer he is to the 42. Might be go time for the defending champion.
Timothy Latham still leads this thing with 11 laps to go. Has been a very relatively clean race this entire time. But a little bit further back, Max Service is now under fire on the outside by Seth Reed, but just behind him, Raul Meza and Craig Lautenschlager wait.
And this pass from Max Service is huge because before that, these 3 cars, Meza, Lautenschlager, and Service, they were separated by 0.15 of a second. This pass with between Service and Reed actually kind of opened up that gap a little bit because he started putting a little bit of side-by-side action into that. And then Meza, contact, Seth Reed! Oh, he gets into the 37 around Meza, and they go into the grass.
Still green. Seth Reed gets sent into the wall, and then I believe that takes out Raul Meza as well. Raul Meza severely damaged back there. Joshua Siegfried back a ways as well. But going back up front as we are still under green, top three still remain the same.
Oh, that is a heartbreaker for Raul Meza. It has been a rough second half of the season for him. Started off this year so well, and then getting that damage there and that contact after Seth Reed caught the ball and came down. Looks like his hopes for the lucky dog are gone, but hopes for the race win is still anybody's ball game as we got the top 8 separated by 0.8 of a second.
There was a bump that sent Seth Reed out to the outside wall. I did not catch who it was from, but he did get bumped into that outside wall, which is what caused him to come back down. So be aware of that. But Timothy Latham bringing it to 7 to go here at Las Vegas.
And blink your eye, and we're almost to the end of this race, in the first race of the Cup Series playoff here in SRN. And I think there's 8 drivers all with a fantastic shot to walk away into victory lane here tonight. But Timothy Latham looks very comfortable up in front, but he's still got teammates right on his back bumper.
Yeah, like we said before the broadcast started, this is a streaky driver. Timothy Latham, if he gets 1-2 in a row, be aware, because next race he will likely get that win too.
And we talked about how much we have the 1.5 and 2 mile racetracks. There might not be anybody better when it comes to 1.5 mile tracks in the series than Timothy Latham. Just so consistent. You can almost guarantee a top 5 for him. Every time we get to 1.5 miles, he starts getting momentum now. This could be like a Chase Elliott in the Cup Series last year, where the momentum goes somebody's way at the absolute perfect time, and these tracks just lay out perfect for Latham.
5 to go here at Las Vegas, and the top 3, top 4, top 5 really stay the same. The really big mover, Landon Lacy, in 6th. So if Gabriel Ellison and Landon Lacy can find a way to get past Scott Healy, we will have all 5 of Next Level Motorsports in the top 5.
My goodness, that is just insane. And we talk about how much they feel like an all-star team with the way that they performed this year. That would be the crowning achievement, I think, for them. The only thing that might be better is if they get the clean sweep of the Championship 5 once we get to Atlanta. But yeah, 1 through 5 finish still very much possible for Next Level. Scott Healy, though, he doesn't want to go backwards. He's looking to move forward as he gets the inside line on James Holzer, and he is almost clear of the 42, but the 42 going to get that outside run. They're still going to be side-by-side, but more importantly, side-by-side for the number 1 spot is Nick going to the inside of Timothy Latham.
Yeah, Scott Healy not waiting around for those other 2 guys to pass him. He wants to pass some people on his own, but Nick going side-by-side with his teammate, and if you are the team president here, you're thinking, oh my gosh, get lined back up, but really all 5 of these guys just want to win.
And if you look at it, if you're trying to dictate, like, hey, if in a perfect world, I want this person to win, the one at the Next Level that needs it the most, you're looking at Goen and Ellison, who are outside of the top 10 entering this race. Latham gets the big run on the outside. He's going to get clear again of Goen in the 88, but that's going to leave the inside open for Scott Healy to the inside, looking for second on Goen.
And a touch. And Scott Healy still has that inside line as Holzer bears down on his teammate, Nick Goen. And Scott Healy cannot get clear just yet. He had a really good run. He stepped back and he drafted off of Holzer going into that corner for a nice big run there, but it's going to kind of fizzle out as he lines right back up again, trying to get that draft again. You'll see him pop back down to the inside. Oh, and he gets into Holzer a little bit.
And meanwhile, Timothy Latham pulled away a little bit, but that might be the worst case scenario as we get ready to take the white flag. That gap is going to mean a big run coming for the 88.
Watching for the run from the 88, watching for the run from the 64. This is really going to be a great final lap as we are white flag here at Las Vegas. Nick Goen getting a lot of draft going on behind his teammate Timothy Latham. James Holzer looking at the draft as well as Scott Healy gets down to James Holzer's inside. He wants that top 3 podium finish.
Oh, this is going to be tight. Latham is going to get the win. Third is anybody's ball game. They touch sideways across the line for Holzer.
And Holzer will get that 3rd position. Scott Healy will take 4th.
I think that was Reece Shafer spinning like a top on his side at the start-finish line.
So as we came to the finish, it didn't affect the standings at the end of anything because they were spinning as they came across the finish line. But right now, Max Service is showing as your playoff lucky dog winner.
Yeah, he does have the 11th spot, as I think the damage to Craig Lautenschlager that he picked up in the follow-through after Reed got into the wall, came back down. We know that he obviously got into Raul Meza. I think there was a little bit of contact there with the 13 as well because he really fell off. And Max Service was pretty wide open there the rest of the way. It was about four seconds back to Austin Reedy, the next closest lucky dog. But what a race up front. Top 10 all playoff drivers led by race winner once again, Timothy Latham.
Yeah, and Latham just really knows when to turn it on out there. Last season, he won those first 2 races and didn't win another race for the rest of the season, basically. And so now these are the first 2 wins that he's had this season. Perfect timing for it.
Yeah, that is some scary timing for all the momentum that you're seeing from that 5 car. And Timothy Latham looks like, we've put all the attention on Holzer and Lacy over the course of the season. Man to beat right now might actually be Timothy Latham with back-to-back wins at the perfect time.
Yeah, we will get all of those actual standings with the points out there into the Discord channel as soon as we possibly can. But Timothy Latham brings home the win. Look at those Next Level Motorsports guys, 5 out of the top 6. Nick Gowen in second, James Holzer in third. Scott Healy, the lone guy outside of Next Level Motorsports that is in that top 5 as he pulls in the 4th position. Gabriel Ellison there in 5th.
And Landon Lacy, the 5th of the Next Level guys, in 6th. Scott Kalal for Rev'd Racing will finish in 7th. Joshua Balliet will be in 8th for Tank Racing. Independent driver Dean Brummett will be in 9th. Seth Berger will round out the top 10 for Tank Racing.
Max Service will get that playoff lucky dog as he finishes in 11th for Tank Racing. David Duke, with that pit strategy, ended up in 12th here tonight. He's going to have to get a little bit more to move up those standings. Reece Shafer in 13th for Tank Racing. Devin Zimmerman as an independent, the first driver that is not a full-time driver here in the Cup Series. He will end up in 14th, and then Austin Reedy will end in 15th.
Craig Lautenschlager, so close for a while there to being the lead Lucky Dog contender, will be in 16th. Joshua Siegfried, another one of those Lucky Dog contenders, in 17th. Raul Meza picking up that damage there. He was in heavy contention for the Lucky Dog, will be 18th. 19th place, last car on the lead lap, will be Dalton Tucker, and Byron McDonald will round out the top 20.
All right, well, it's not going to be too hard to do the interviews here tonight. They're all in the same Discord channel, but let's bring them up one at a time as we bring James Holzer up into the booth. James, it's Sean and Brandon up here. Hey, man, 3rd place, never a bad thing, especially as your teammates are in 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, absolutely not there, Sean. That was a heck of a race. Really hated to see that caution there, as I was really liking where I was at, just with the tire spread and having the freshest tires up there. Was really, really good on the long run. That last run really didn't get enough of it to be a long run, but nonetheless was overall a really good race.
And we were talking about the possibility of getting that clean sweep 1 through 5 for the entire team. Almost happened with 5 in the top 6. You got the bye week. You don't have to put it on everybody, but man, what a showing for the entire team.
That's what we were saying. We said we should have saved that for whenever we're in the bracket. But yeah, nonetheless, we were just trying to work together as a team as best as we could there. I probably could have made a little more of a push, to try to battle there for a win, but just knowing where I'm at, I didn't want to put myself in a worse situation, have the possibility of getting wrecked or something like that. So I was just trying to ride there, and like you said, nothing to hate about a top 3, and was a really, really good way to start off our playoff season. With everything that's been going on this week, it's been good to be able to get a good run in tonight. Just unfortunate too with the blinking issue I've been having. Just been trying to get that fixed, and I turned stuff down, and then I turned crowds and stands off, but I come in here and crowds and stands were still on. So not really sure. I had to drop back there for blinking. We dropped back and we drove all the way back up through, and then like I said, really didn't want to see that last caution, but nonetheless we were still able to capitalize and finish with a podium.
Well, yeah, and now we're heading towards Kentucky next week, another 1.5 mile track where obviously your entire team is fantastic on these tracks. They know how to save tires. They know how to really move to the front all together as a team. What do you see going into Kentucky?
Kentucky is a little more of an unconventional mile and a half, whereas here you're really wide open for the first, 6, 7, 8 laps if you want to be, and it won't really hurt you too bad. But yeah, Kentucky is one of my worst mile and a halves out of all of them, so definitely gonna have to put in our work this week. Turn 3 has just been my kryptonite. Just haven't been able to figure out how to carry speed through there and not roll on the right front. So gonna have to figure that out. But with a good performance today, it gives us a pretty good window that we can have a little bit of a worse performance and not really have to worry about dropping out of the cut line there below the top 10. But the real music's going to start whenever we do get in the top 10, because it's going to be a dead even reset. So everything you did before, it all comes down to being even and having a really good 3 races going into Atlanta, and more excited about those races coming forward or moving forward. Coming up on the schedule, and just gonna have to try to keep clean and do what we can to capitalize on what we can do.
Well, who would you like to thank here tonight before we let you get back to it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brandon.
Just want to thank everybody up in the booth, everybody in the league for always doing a commendable job. It's a great league to run in. Anybody that's watching that's not here, only got a few more weeks left, so season 3 will be around the corner before you know it. Go ahead and sign up, reach out to one of these guys to come on and join. Got to thank everybody on the car, from JP Designs, Butt Kicker, Laurel Auto Group, Raise Energy. Got to thank the whole team as an overall with Next Level. Everyone's been tremendous working together, all season long. And I know it's going to go more and more out the window as it gets closer and closer to championship because, like I've said before, it is a team championship, but at the same time, you're chasing after an individual goal of $1,000. So, you got to do what you got to do at that point. But, it's about all I have to thank. I appreciate it, guys, and we're looking forward to next week.
Sounds good, man. Well, we will see you next week at Kentucky.
See you, Sean. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's see if we can't grab second place. Nick Goen in here and find out how his race went as Nick Goen, Sean, and Brandon up in the booth, man. Hey, second place, we'll take that all day long. And, tell us about your race.
Absolutely. I'm happy to take P2. I mean, I think it's my best finish of the season, but yeah, it was a good race. I mean, it was like from the start, we thought it was going to be fuel mileage. We weren't sure if there were going to be a lot of cautions, but luckily we did get some, so we were able to race a little bit more instead of concentrating on fuel mileage a little bit. But we were just hanging back, just trying to just stay out of trouble, because I have a tendency of getting caught up in things in important races. So I'm just happy to be here in the playoffs, especially missing them last season.
And that's actually what I was about to ask about. You had that big run, a couple wins in the Xfinity side last year after not making the playoffs, but you really made a name for yourself during the playoffs. Now you're in it. How's it feel to be part of the playoff? And also, can we expect that similar kind of run that you had last season?
I'm hoping so. I mean, I've started to, I think, except for Talladega and I can't remember Charlotte when I got caught up on a restart. It was just bad luck there. But outside of those 2 races, I've been finishing in the top 5 pretty regularly, and I feel like I've been building momentum towards this end of the season. I think I'm starting to finally get the hang of the Cup car. I much prefer the Xfinity car over this, so it's definitely been a learning adjustment. I'm looking forward to continuing in the playoffs, although I am missing next week due to a another commitment. But I'm hoping to have a good finish. I got the good finish tonight. It was just one shy of what I really wanted. Got the good finish tonight, and then in 2 weeks at Auto Club, I'm hoping to bring that home, and I'm feeling really good about that. Had another league race there last week, so got familiar with the track and learning how to race around that.
Well, man, who would you like to thank here tonight before we let you get back to it?
I'd like to thank my team for really, really good communication tonight. Also my sponsors, Detail Carolina and Cine 3 Designs. They're on the car for pretty much the whole season this year. And thanks for broadcasts every single week. I like going back and watching them.
Well, man, congratulations on a second-place finish here tonight. We'll get you back down to your team so you can celebrate a little bit more. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, and let's see if we can't get the back-to-back man himself as we bring Timothy Latham up into the booth. Timothy, welcome to the booth with Sean and Brandon. Congratulations for 2 in a row.
I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun out there tonight.
Well, man, it was looking really, really great. Pretty much the entire race for your entire team. Everybody seemed to have the thing on lock. But you yourself, you're a very, very streaky driver we've found over the past couple seasons working with you here. So any suspicions for next week?
No. I kind of felt confident coming to Vegas because last season I did really good. I just missed out on pit strategy there at the end, and it kind of screwed me. But I felt pretty confident, so I knew I could easily get a top 5 here tonight with all the racing that was going on. I kind of wish we could have played that fuel strategy game out. I know I was good. I know Holzer was good. I think Gabe was going to be good. I don't know about Nick. I think he was going to be good, but Landon might have been short. But man, we had a great night tonight. We were playing the strategy game the whole time, just deciding on what laps to pit on, and if we should pit after or before anybody else. But oh man, that was a great race tonight, and definitely looking forward to next week.
And next week, Kentucky just being a little different. There's a lot of similarities, but the next 2 races. I know you talk about not really knowing too much about what next week will bring, but, all the momentum that you got, how do you feel about the rest of the round in general?
I do feel really good about the rest of the round. I actually won Kentucky last season, and in Auto Club I finished either 2nd or 3rd, so it's looking to be a good round for me this week.
Well, man, who would you like to thank before we let you get back to celebrating your win here tonight?
I just want to thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast. I want to thank my team for working with me out there. We did some long runs and some pit parties out there in practice, and of course every week I want to thank everybody at Rep Sports to Raise Energy for letting me have them on board and giving them some airtime, and we got them victory 2 weeks in a row. So happy about that.
Well, man, we will see you next week in Kentucky to see if you can make it a 3-peat. But congratulations tonight, and we'll see how that does in the standings going forward.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right. Buddy, it was a really, really great race here at Las Vegas, but next week we're going to Kentucky Speedway where we should see another great race on the 1.5 mile oval there.
Yeah, it's a slight different. It's not going to be exactly the same, but man, Cup cars and trucks at the 1.5 miles this season have absolutely been incredible. And, we got 1 week of playoff jitters out of the way. I think everybody's going to be feeling pretty good going into that next one. It should be another great race as we go to the track with the green walls out there in Kentucky.
Man, it is a really fun track to deal with. It's a little bit different than here in Las Vegas. I don't think it's going to be as fast, and so I think a lot more strategy will be involved there at Kentucky, but can't wait to see how they all deal with it next week, Sunday, October 24th at 8 p.m. Central. But our very next race is the Truck Series going to Kentucky as well for the Bluegrass 125, Wednesday, October 20th at 9 p.m.
And we saw the pressure of starting the playoff tonight, and we saw it on Thursday as well. On Wednesday, because of the issues that we had a few weeks ago with iRacing and the server dropping, this is going to be the start of the playoff for the Truck Series. So we're going to be finding that 16th driver with the lucky dog there as well. And we're going to start sorting out who's going to be those favorites to move on to the round of 10 in really what has been such an even series in the truck side. Been really exciting since the start of the season.
Yeah, we are going to have a great time there in Kentucky as they begin that playoff series. But for right now, here at Speed Racing Network, we're going to let everybody get back to your normal lives, but always remember to go faster.